1, 2, 3, 4! From the Riffs!
Alright, welcome back to From the Riffs. We're going the second part of our in-depth look at Heroes Unlimited 2. Well, you want to take us in?
Alright, so up next we're going to talk about some of the game mechanics as far as magic, psionics, and the relevance to this actual game setting.
Yeah. In this setting, it's a low Ppe environment, which Ppe is a potential psychic energy, which means magic is kind of on the low side, which means that there are no visible lie lines, there's no visible sources of power. The game does use the standard Ppe system for spells that all the other Palladium games do. So your magic using heroes from other worlds, other books could come in here. But if they did, they would be SDC beings. The ISP, again, for the psionics is the same thing. It's a standard ISP from the other games. Like I was saying before, the problem with characters that rely on PPE or ISP in this setting is that characters who rely on super abilities compared to those with ISP or PPE will tend to be much more powerful because they don't run out.
Right, yeah, your powers just don't shut off, and it makes the difference when you have a character, even if the ability is something as minor as flight, which is actually kind of major, but if it's just basic flight, well, it never turns off. Whereas if you have levitation, well, you're going to run out of ISP sooner than later. Yeah. So.
But other than that, the spells are kind of the common Palladium spells. They do cover the range of abilities. The psychic powers, same way. They cover the gambit of abilities. They go through the same major categories as Rifts or the other games. There's really no downfall to them, but like I said, it's just that they don't have the staying power of super ability heroes.
I would actually, and the other thing I'd say, I would recommend, I mean, really, it's Heroes Unlimited. If you're a newer player, or you're new to role-playing, I would just stick to playing some of the powered classes.
Yeah,
and then if you've been playing this system for a little while, then graduate into trying to play a magic user or something like that, if you want a different flavor in the game.
Yeah. Then we get on to the super abilities. Super abilities are divided into two categories. You've got minor powers and major powers. Unlike magic or psionics, where you can develop more over time, that is one of the advantages of those classes. Most classes in Palladium, Palladium Heroes Unlimited, they get a certain number of abilities, and that's all you get. There's like one exemption with the mutants, but other than that, you're really stuck with the number of powers you get. So you might have a couple of major powers, you might have a handful of minors, or some combination therein, but that's what you're going to have.
Right, and there are two ways to kind of go about this, at the GM's discretion. Now, it's suggested in the book that you roll on a chart to see what powers you're going to get. However, there are some GMs, especially in the games that we've played in, where you want to build your own character, and the GM will give you options, like you can have 1 major, 2 minors, or you can have 3 minors and no majors, or something to that effect. So really it does come down to choice and discretion.
Yeah, you could either roll them randomly or pick them or whatever.
Right. I've seen people roll some pretty interesting randoms. As it's implied, minor powers, they are just that for the most part. But a really smart player can figure out how to make those minor powers just as effective.
Yeah, it could be things like X-ray vision, or underwater abilities, or radar, or just a single enhanced attribute. Those kind of things are minor.
Clock manipulation.
Okay. Anyway, we'll skip that. And then we get into the major powers. Now, major powers are those kind of powers that define a character. So if your character has altered physical structure fire, he turns into a flaming torch. That defines your character. If your character has magnetism, that really defines your character.
Now let's face it, I mean, let's be honest. If you have altered physical structure, anything, your character is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And altered physical structure, It really does run the gamut. Now, we're dealing with just the main book, but there are powers books as well that have additional ultra-physical structures, and they do get into the more interesting, like ultra-physical structure, bone and blood, which really cool, really great concept. But the major powers, they really do. They actually do define a character, or if you have control, any controlling powers.
Control, radiation.
Radiation control is nasty. And it's one of my favorites. So,
or supernatural strength.
Supernatural strength.
Invulnerability.
One that's one we tend to curb. We usually don't allow invulnerability just because it can really unbalance a game.
Or we put some limits on it.
Or we put some limits on it. Although we do, some more experienced players can play as an invulnerable character if they are really good at just role-playing and not trying to be the end-all be-all. Because really, Heroes Unlimited is attempting to recreate the comic book experience. You know, so it's not about, as we said in our overview, it's not about loot gathering or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's the experience. That's what you're going to want to keep in mind when you're setting up your campaign or creating your character.
Yeah, it's really, this is the one game where, I mean, every time I play, I never really care how much money my guy has. My guy's always da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, I'm here to save the day.
Just like that. That's what he does every time he plays.
But you get that feeling where it's about telling a story, it's about getting your character the way you want your character, and really getting involved in it.
Yeah, and if you're playing with the right group of people, it can be a very, very rewarding experience. So, I think that's about all we need to say about this book.
Well, no, I mean, there's more to do, but I mean, that's it for the powers. You mean?
Oh, okay.
I mean, now
I stand corrected.
We'll go on. There's still other stuff for it. The book does have, because it's set in a modern setting, there's a full selection of guns. There's stats for basic vehicles. There's stats for swords and axes and all that kind of stuff, because heroes generally have those. There's rules for, the combat rules include, how to incorporate superpowers into it, because superpowers, regular combats just don't happen the way they do in other games when you have superpowers involved.
True.
Yeah. The whole thing of super brawling just is a whole other level to combat. Then it does have a nice little section too on like heroes throughout the ages, understanding what the golden age is and those kind of settings, because although the game is designed or set in the modern setting, you can use these same set of characteristics to play any game you want. I mean, you could play World War II, you could play, turn of the century, you could play in the 1930s or the 1940s, or you could play, 70s or 80s.
Even in the distant future, if you wanted to.
Yeah,
although we'd recommend probably keeping that in a risk campaign.
But no, there's a whole Galaxy Guide set of books that are designed for playing heroes in space.
Wow.
So, I mean, it really does run the gamut, but the thing is, it's one of the books that has both not as much background stuff, but has such a huge scope of things you can play that sometimes it does make it, oh my god, what do I want to play this time?
True. There are many options in this particular setting, and for me, I've enjoyed every campaign I've used it for.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I would like to just go over a little bit, like, in these superhero setting games and in the book in general, do you have any specific type of character you like playing better? Like,
personally, I like to play the mutant, just because it's just the easiest explanation, I guess. And there's always that option of gaining more powers. I tend to stay away from magic users and psionics, because as we said before, once you run out, you run out. Of course, I think everyone likes to play someone who can either fly or have super strength, or so. I mean, I do have particular characters that I use many times over. But yeah, I think I like to stay closer to the tough guy, the strong, fast, flying.
And my favorite hero is generally the Experiment. Same thing, I like having the powers. And I generally try to play that, the champion for, truth, justice, and
the Canadian way.
Yeah. But anyway, that gives you an idea of the book and our views on it. and we'll see you later. That's From the Riffs.
Take it easy.